Okay, Mr. Speaker, you are now live on YouTube.
The House will please come to order. Welcome, members of the 66th Wyoming Legislature, House of Representatives, and welcome to Wyoming and anyone else that might be joining us from around the world. We appreciate you being here on our 6th day of the session. We are going to take a roll call, but we have one committee that is still working, so we will leave the roll open and finish the roll upon their return. So, Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Convening roll call for the 6th day, Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. Andrew.
Here.
Baker. Baker. Thanks.
Here.
Bear.
Here.
Blackburn.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
Burt.
Present.
Clausen. Clausen. Clifford.
Here.
Connolly.
Here.
Crago.
Present.
Duncan.
Here.
Eklund.
Here.
Air.
Thank you.
Here.
Flitner.
Here.
Fortner.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Greer.
Here.
Hallinan. Hallinan. Haroldson.
Present.
Harshman.
Here.
Heiner.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
Kinner.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Larson Lloyd.
Here.
Larson Dan.
Here.
McGuire.
Present.
Martinez.
Here.
Nyman.
Here.
Newsom.
Here.
Nicholas.
Here.
Oakley.
Here.
Obermuller.
Here.
O'Hearn.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Ottman.
Here.
Paxton.
Here.
Provenza.
Here.
Roscoe.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Sherwood.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Stiff.
Here.
Stivar.
Present.
Sweeney.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Washit.
Here.
Western.
Here.
Worf.
Here.
Williams.
Present.
Wilson.
Here.
Winter.
Here.
Yin.
Here.
Zawanitzer.
Here.
Mr. Speaker.
Here. Chief Clerk, it looks like revenue is back, so if you want to finish out maybe the roll, we might be able to get it done.
Okay. Baker.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Hallinan.
Here.
We have 60 present.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Welcome back, all 60 members. Strong today, I hope. We have our prayer of the day. Thank you, Representative Ayer. You'll join Representative Ayer.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, as we begin our session this day, we pause to acknowledge Thee, to offer our gratitude, and to ask for Thy blessing. We are grateful for the sacred honor of serving in this body. We are thankful for those who have come before us in establishing and preserving this great nation and state, and upon whose shoulders we stand. We express our gratitude for all those who have sacrificed so much in keeping our country safe, and for those who are even today serving to protect and defend our country. For those who are ensuring our public safety, and for those who provide healthcare in all of our local communities. We're grateful for all of the great people of our state, and we pray for them. Holy Father, we ask for thy Spirit and thy example to guide us this day and throughout this session. We pray for wisdom, for courage, and for compassion. Bless all of our actions with kindness, civility, and understanding. We pray for comfort for those who are grieving, healing for those who are ill, and peace in our daily lives. We offer this prayer of thanks and humbly ask for these blessings in the sacred name of our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you very much, Representative Ayer. Chief Clerk, Journal Committee report, please.
Your Journal Committee reports that the Journal of February 1st, 2021 has been read and recommend that it be approved. Signed, Representatives Haroldson and Provenza.
Thank you very much, Chief Clerk and Representatives Haroldson and Provenza. Chief Clerk, messages from the Senate.
Message number 9. Mr. Speaker, this is to inform you that the Senate has amended the temporary joint rules of the 66th Legislature General Session with the following amendment. Joint Rule number 2 was adopted. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Chief Clerk, reports from standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your committee number 2 appropriations, to whom was referred Senate File 32 engrossed, water permit notice requirements. Respectfully report same back to the House with recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Kinner, Larson Lloyd, Nicholas, Schwartz, Simpson, Stiff, Walters. Signed, Representative Nicholas, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 2 appropriations, to whom was referred Senate File 54, statewide health information exchange codification. Respectfully report same back to the House with recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Kinner, Larson Lloyd, Nicholas, Schwartz, Simpson, Stiff, Walters. Signed, Representative Nicholas, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporation, Election and Political Subdivision, to whom was referred Senate File 14, credit for reinsurance. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Clifford, Duncan, Ayer, Hunt, McGuire, Roscoe, Zawanitzer. Signed, Representative Zawanitzer, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, to whom was referred Senate File 29 engrossed, revised uniform law on notarial acts. Respectfully report same back to the House with a recommendation that it do pass. Signed, Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Ayes, Blackburn, Clausen, Clifford, Duncan, Ayer, Hunt, McGuire, Roscoe, Zawanitzer. Signed, Representative Zawanitzer, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. I want to give a shout out to all of our committees. I think now all but one committee, maybe 2 committees have met in this week and turned out some bills. We'll continue working those bills as our time allows. So thank you for all the good work in the committees. We appreciate that. No re-referrals in that, I don't believe, was there, Chief Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So we are now at that order of bills on second reading. The first bill for our consideration is Senate File 41.
Senate File 41, sponsored by Minerals Business and Economic Development, Tax Lien Enforcement Amendments, an act relating to ad valorem taxation.
Senate File 41, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next bill for our consideration is Senate File 42.
Senate File 42, sponsored by Minerals Business and Economic Development, out-of-state state bank charter conversions, an act relating to banks and banking.
And Chief Clerk, I'm still pulling up mine. Do we have an amendment to this?
No, sir.
No amendment. Senate File 42, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next bill for our consideration is Senate File 43.
Senate File 43, sponsored by Minerals Business and Economic Development, Wyoming Energy Authority Amendments, an act relating to the Wyoming Energy Authority.
Chief Clerk, I'm not getting my amendments to pull up. So is there any amendments to any of these?
You need to finish passing that one. And no, there were no amendments.
Okay, thank you. Senate File 63, having been read 43, having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Next bill for our consideration is Senate File 63.
Senate File 63, sponsored by Capital Financing and Investments, PWMTF Reserve Account Distribution Timing, an act relating to public funds. And there are no amendments, sir.
Thank you. Senate File 63, having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Thank you, Chief Clerk. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole.
Members, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Chairman Nicholas, just a moment. Chairman Nicholas, you have an inquiry?
Yeah, I just noticed that there's all kinds of members who are freezing up. Their pictures are disappearing. And I just want to make sure that we've got everything's working properly before we jump in to start going through all this.
So any members that are having difficulty, would you please email or send an email to Jamie or to Rihanna and letting them know you're having difficulties, and we'll try to figure out if it's on this end or if we can assist you on your end. Thank you, Chairman Nicholas. All those in favor of the majority floor leaders that we motion that we resolve into committee of the whole, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion is adopted. We have Chairman Flitner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee of the Whole will please come to order. I appreciate the applause. Thank you all. Let me set up my computer here. This is bizarre.
Madam Chairwoman, this is the Majority Floor Leader. Could I have the mic for a second?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you. And so ladies and gentlemen, the Committee of the Whole list for now will be Senate File 14, as I sent out, Senate File 14, Senate File 29, Senate File 32, Senate File 54, Senate File 57, House Bill 29, House Bill 49, and House Bill 58. I may get some more Senate files moved in front of those House bills, but I haven't got them organized yet. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Our first bill for consideration is Senate File 14. The reading clerk will read the bill.
Senate File 14, sponsored by Corporations, Elections, Political, and Subdivisions, Credit for Reinsurance, an act relating to insurance. This bill was referred to Committee Number 7 which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Signed Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Clifford, Duncan, Air, Hunt, McGuire, Roscoe, Zwanitzer. Signed Representative Zwanitzer, Chairman.
Thank you. You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Zwanitzer?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move when the Committee of the Whole rise to report to do so with the recommendation that Senate File 14 do pass. There are no standing committee amendments, and I believe I'm turning it over to the good member from Fremont County.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chairman, I bring to you Senate File 14 and ask for your favorable consideration. This bill updates Chapter 5 of the Insurance Code, which relates to credit reinsurance. This is a National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC model law that's been in the Insurance Code and was last updated in 2017. The state has had this accreditation since 1993. An update is needed again due to international developments, as well as to avoid federal preemption. In addition, this model law is also an NAIC accreditation standard that the department will need to maintain accreditation with NAIC. In the past, we required all offshore reinsurers to post 100% collateral for any risks they assumed from US insurance companies. This became an international trade issue because a lot of the world's largest reinsurers are located across the Atlantic. In early 2017, when the law was updated, offshore reinsurers were allowed an avenue to be able to reduce the collateral that they had to post by meeting certain requirements. They could become a certified reinsurer, and as long as they were domiciled in a qualified jurisdiction, they could qualify to reduce the collateral that they posted from 100% to 20% or 10% or even 0%, provided they met certain requirements. This happened in early 2017. Fast forward to September 2017, the US Trade Representative signed a covered agreement with the European Union, which eliminated all collateral requirements for EU companies provided they met certain requirements. Then in 2018, in December, the US Trade Representative signed a similar agreement with the UK, which mirrors the EU agreement. So based on these agreements, state insurer regulators now have 5 years from the date that covered agreement was signed with the EU in order to be in compliance with its terms or face federal preemption, starting in September 2022. Therefore, the need to update this law. To walk you through the bill, on page 1, section 1, several new paragraphs are added. On line 14 of page 1, in section 212 or 112, this is an update to include Roman numeral 7, which starts on page 2, line 20. Currently, the reinsurance framework in Chapter 5 of our insurance code provides 6 different ways that a Wyoming domestic insurance company can reduce its risks on its balance sheet by using reinsurance. This bill adds a 7th way to allow a ceding insurer to take credit for reinsurance and reduce the liabilities it reports on its balance sheet when the reinsurance is ceding to an assuming insurer that has its head office or is domiciled in a reciprocal jurisdiction and is licensed in a reciprocal jurisdiction. On page 3, line 1, reciprocal jurisdiction would be one of those jurisdictions that have signed a covered agreement with the US. So right now, that is the UK and the EU. Line 5 of page 3, the assuming insurer has and maintains a minimum capital and surplus specified in rules adopted by the commissioner. So with this bill, the department would have to update Chapter 50 of its existing rules to include a $250 million requirement for capital and surplus for these assuming insurers. These are the large companies, not the fly-by-night outfits. On line 18 of page 3, the assuming insurer has and maintains a minimum solvency or capital ratio as specified in rules adopted by the commissioner. Again, that would require an update of Chapter 50 of the department's rules. This will require a 300% risk-based capital ratio, or a ratio that's used in that company's domiciliary jurisdiction. Again, these companies have to be well capitalized in order for the ceding insurer to take credit on its balance sheet preceding liabilities to these companies. On page 4, line 6, the assuming insurer also has to agree in writing to the following 5 requirements, which are spelled out on the next few pages. I'd like to point out the 4th item on page 5, line 12, is a very good consumer protection, as well as the 5th requirement on page 6, line 1, which states that a solvent scheme of arrangement is a UK mechanism. It is not beneficial to policyholders, so that's why this provision is here. That if the assuming insurer is participating in one of those schemes, they have to agree to post 100% collateral again. On line 13, page 6, the assuming insurer shall provide documentation to the commissioner specified by rule. On line 19 of page 6, the assuming insurer shall maintain a practice of prompt payment of claims. Page 7, line 1, the assuming insurer supervisory authority shall confirm to the commissioner on an annual basis that the assuming insurer complies with the capitalization requirements outlined on page 3 of the bill. On line 13, page 7, and on page 8, line 14, the commissioner shall timely create and publish 2 lists, the reciprocal jurisdictions and assuming insurers that have satisfied all conditions into which cessions shall be granted credit on the department's website. The department currently has lists of certified reinsurers and qualified jurisdictions based on the 2017 legislation, and the department is confident they would be able to manage the 2 new lists on their website as well. Page 9, line 5, the commissioner may revoke or suspend the eligibility of the assuming insurer as set forth in rules. On page 10, line 4 is another good consumer protection. Sometimes when an insurance company is having financial trouble, it's hard to get the reinsurers to pay, so this is an important provision. On line 19 of page 10, credit may be taken under this paragraph only for reinsurance agreements entered into, amended, are renewed on or after July 1, 2021, which is the proposed effective date of this legislation, and providing that the assuming insurer has met all of the eligibility requirements. Again, this would not be in effect for agreements that are currently in effect. The agreements would have to be entered into, amended, or renewed on or after July 1, 2021. So any collateral requirements that are currently in place under those agreements would remain in place. On page 11, line 21, covered agreement means an agreement entered into pursuant to the Dodd-Frank Act, which addresses the elimination under specified conditions of collateral requirements. On page 12, line 8, we defined reciprocal jurisdictions. There are 3 ways one can meet a definition of reciprocal jurisdiction. The first definition is on line 11. A non-United States jurisdiction that is subject to an in-force covered agreement with the United States. So again, the EU and UK would meet that definition. Or on line 17, you could be a United States jurisdiction that meets the requirements for accreditation. Or on line 21, you could be a qualified jurisdiction, which is language that was adopted in 2017. That means meet certain additional requirements consistent with the covered agreements. Page 13, line 6, section 116 deals with the department's rules, which requires an update to chapter 50 for the provisions of this legislation. On line 20, we renumber existing language and renumber as well on page 14, line 2. On line 16, this act is effective July 1, 2021. Which gives us the department plenty of time before the federal preemption goes into effect in September of 2022. This is the bill, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative Clifford. Well done. Questions, committee? Chairman Swanitzer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to add my support for this bill and for the newer members to understand the basics of insurance law. Insurance is regulated at a state level, But because it's such a highly, I don't know, an industry that affects the world, each of our states gets together and we ensure that our laws are basically the same. So you can move insurance between our states, but in doing so, we continue to fight off what we call federal preemption of having the federal government take over insurance. So even though this law doesn't have massive effects for Wyoming, this is part of our agreement with our the other 49 states that we will continue to have basically similar, if not exactly similar, insurance laws to allow for the ease of access. And so that's kind of an indirect way of saying we highly discourage any amendments because it would put us out of compliance with our sister states, and that these bills, you'll see 1 or 2 each year, just keep us in compliance with the patchwork of insurance laws that go across the United States. Good bill, good support, keeps our accreditation, keeps insurance in Wyoming's hands and not federal preemption, and I would encourage your support.
Thank you. Representative Greer, did you have a question?
Madam Chairman, actually, I think the chairman answered my question. I was asking what, assuming insurers that we really had that were situated in Wyoming. But since I'm talking, I'll go ahead and ask this question as well. You know, so we look at the agreement and the reciprocal definition and talking about non-United States. It's my understanding it's not uncommon, as a matter of fact, very common to see Caribbean or South American rim countries that actually act in that reinsurance market that helps spread that risk around. And just wondering what discussions you had on that to make sure everything was in place, that we didn't leave a consumer high and dry on a very large stacked policy or something.
Chairman Swanitzer.
Sure, thanks, Madam Chairwoman. And that is true. I would say a large portion of these reinsurers are actually in Europe, as the good representative testified to, but there are, you know, you can domicile your reinsurance company anywhere in the world. So there are protections you'll see in place in the bill at different levels and different percentages, and with the oversight of the insurance commissioner of our state, but really about 4 or 5 states, you know, oversee kind of the world marketplace on behalf of what we'd call the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, NAIC, which is a trade group of all of the state insurance commissioners that get together to act as a, you know, a consortium to ensure bad actors are weeded out. So this bill truly doesn't affect Wyoming that much, except for maybe the northwest corner of the state when people are trying to get, you know, property or casualty for $1 million or multi-million-dollar homes, or they have interesting things to insure that would require several layers of reinsurance. Reinsurance for new members is if a domestic insurer or an insurer in Wyoming doesn't have the capital or the means basically to issue a policy to the effect that it would need to be issued for a very expensive structure, they can go out and basically get what we'd call insurance for insurance, someone else to spread out that risk to. So there are companies in interesting jurisdictions that are part of the reinsurance game, but I do believe there are safeguards in place more at a nationwide level through our trade groups. We also have what's called NCOIL, the National Council of Insurance Legislators, that works with the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And so, you know, they monitor and ensure that, you know, companies are solvent and aren't doing anything nefarious, but there are some safeguards, most of which take place in the larger states who have extremely large departments of insurance and insurance commissioners who are elected statewide. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Chairman Swanitzer. Further questions, committee? Question having been called, all those in favor of Chairman Swanitzer's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that Senate File 14 do pass, please raise your hand to the screen. Opposed, same sign. Senate File 14 having passed committee of the whole, we will move on, and our next bill for consideration is Senate File 29. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
Senate File 29, sponsored by Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivision. Revised Uniform Law on Notarial Acts, an act relating to notaries. This bill was referred to committee number 7, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Clifford, Duncan, Air, Hunt, McGuire, Roscoe, Zwanitzer. Signed, Representative Zwanitzer, Chairman.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Zwanitzer?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move when the committee of the whole rise to report, it do so with the recommendation that Senate File 29 do pass. There are no standing committee amendments, and the bill will be floor managed by the good Vice Chairwoman of Minerals.
Thank you. Representative Duncan, where are you?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senate File 29 is necessary because it modernizes our Wyoming notary laws, as they have not been updated in 12 to 15 years. And it also adds much needed protection and clarification. When COVID hit, we heard from all of our constituents who needed the means to notarize documents to ensure businesses continue to operate. Secretary of State office issued guidance for remote notarization on a temporary basis, as did the rest of the country. To make this option permanent, this bill is necessary. I'll be highlighting the bill by section as it's a lengthy bill. Section 102 is definitions, which includes many new definitions from the revised Uniform Act, including remote notarization. On skipping on down to page 11, RIN and RON are defined. RIN is the acknowledgement only where an ink signature on a tangible document can be notarized by verification after the fact. And an RON is a remote online notarization that can be performed with a simultaneous video audio recording that meets all other requirements. Skipping over to section 103 is the applicability. Section 104 is the authority to perform notarial acts. In section B, this allows for the physical notarial act to occur in any bordering state if that bordering state recognizes the authority within that state. Currently, 3 of our bordering states allows that authority. Section 105 is the notarial acts in Wyoming. This is current language, as well as section 106, notarial acts in other states. Again, that's current language. 107 is new, and it is the uniform language for the authority of federally recognized Indian tribes for notarial acts. Section 108 is the current law on notarial acts under federal authority. Section 109 is also current law under foreign notarial acts. 110 is our Secretary of State authority to issue apostille and authentication. Sorry, I haven't had enough coffee yet. These are records that need to be authenticated for foreign countries. So the fee was raised from $10 per filing to $20, which is more in line and in par with other state fees. There is also language added for the ability to reject an apostille. Section 111 is requirements for certain notarial acts, which is all pretty standard language until section J on page 28 through page 31, which is where the explanation of the RON, R-O-N, and the RIN begin. Again, these are remote options, are options only, and the traditional notaries will continue. Section 112 is the authority of the notary to refuse. Section 113 is still current language. Section 114 is the certificate of the notarial act, all current language with the incorporation of the remote ink and remote online. Section 115 is the short form certificates, which is almost identical to our current language. 116 is the official signature and the stamp, again, all current with the incorporations of the provisions for the electronic stamp. 117 is the stamping device. 118 is requiring a journal and audio-visual recordings. Now on this, the language on what was to be required in the journal and the retention period were removed in committee. This gives the notary or the employer of the notary the flexibility to decide how to do the journal and how to maintain or complete that. Section 119 is that a recorder may accept a tangible copy of an electronic record. Section 120 is how to get the commission and how to renew. The filing fee in this section on line 21, page 53, has increased from $30 to $60 to receive a commission. It sounds like that we've doubled the fee, but the notary will actually pay much less because the bond was cut and we've increased the term from 4 years to 6 years. So currently a notary pays $98 for 4 years, $30 for the commission, $50 for the bond, and $18 for the recording fee. So with the new statute, the notary will only pay $60 for 6 years. So it's actually a savings. Section 121 is the examination and education section. And this was requested by the Wyoming notaries as it was a huge benefit. This is also Rulona language. Section 122 is the grounds to deny, refuse, or refuse to renew, revoke, suspend, or condition a commission by the Secretary of State. We currently don't have this authority with our Secretary of State, and it is necessary. Section 123 is to prohibit acts where a notary can notarize their own signature, where they can't notarize their own signature or that of their spouse or civil partner. This language has always been suggested, but it was never in statute. So this is now put in there to protect. Section 124 is the validity of notarial acts. 125 gives the Secretary of State rulemaking authority. 126 allows a notary to collect $10 per notarial act. And for the technology fees and travel fees, currently a notary can only charge $5, but $10 is more on par with other states, what other states allow. Section 127 is how a name change or contact information is changed with the Secretary of State. 128 is the transition language from the current notary commission to the new commissions. And 129 is the savings clause. And 130 and 131 are just complying language. The rest of the bill is just cleanup in other statutes that refer back to the notary statutes. This completes the walkthrough, and now I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Duncan. Well done. Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, a question I have. I really like this bill. I use DocuSign a lot with my clients. But I have to also get affidavits from them. Currently, I can't do affidavits by DocuSign because that has to have a notary sworn oath on it. My question is this: if we pass this and I'm a notary, can I both have the client sign electronically through DocuSign, for example, and then can I electronically sign the same document so long as I know that it's genuinely the person signing it? In other words, can I just do this, or do I have to develop some fancy other technology or buy some other service?
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, the answer is yes. It is, you can either do it through the services you already have, or you can create, or you can subscribe to a service. So the way I understood it in testimony is, I have my own form software through my real estate practice, and it's very similar to DocuSign. One of the things that you can do is you can utilize the software that we're using right now, Zoom platform that we're using right now, where we can actually physically see the other person. You can send them the document, share their screen with you. You can see them physically go through and sign it, verify that they are who they are when they sign that document, and then you can notarize that. So yes, you can use whatever current platform you have, as long as you're verifying that they are who they are.
Thank you. Chairman Greer.
Thank you. One, I just kind of caution the members not to use the corporate names when we're debating, please. So I kind of had one comment. So we redid the Notarial Officers Act about 9 years ago. So it was interesting. This rolls around. This is a good bill to see this get cleaned up, come forward with the times. Just a real simple question is, why do we have to put it in statute, the fee? Why even worry about that?
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good question. I don't have an answer for you.
Chairman Swanitzer. You're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think the answer is twofold. First, you don't want an agency to be able to set fees in their rules and regs. And second, well, there's an administrative cost, and the money raised from these fees goes to the general fund, and we could use all the money we can get right now.
Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So if I want to still use my raised embossed notarial stamper and then wet ink afterwards with a little gold emblem underneath it, can I still do that when I want, and then other times electronically sign?
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want to do. This gives the capability of those that still want to use paper, still want to do their embossed or their electronic wet stamp, or electronically do this via online. So I have clients who are selling their house here locally, but yet they now live in another state. So we need to notarize documents. This is a perfect solution for me that I can now notarize their documents here locally, or the title office can notarize their documents here locally, rather than having to email the documents, then print them off, them sign in front of a notary, try and find a notary in that state somewhere, have them signed, and then physically send them back to the title office. Instead, now what they can do is they can meet with the client in the title office real time or ahead of time. They can email the documents to the client. The client can sit there in front of them and electronically sign them in front of the title officer. The title officer can then notarize the documents in front of them and then turn around and close the deal right there here in town. So rather than having a week span of having to physically mail docs back and forth because you need a wet signature for the notarization, instead we have this possibility. But yes, Mr. Majority Whip, you can still use your traditional paper notarization or this new form.
Thank you. Chairman Swanster, did you want to follow up as well on that question?
No, not on that question, Madam Chairman. I thought the good Vice Chairman did an amazing job of answering it. I wanted to follow up on the question posed previously by the good Chairman of Minerals. I forgot that it's not just statutory, it's in Article 14, Section 2 of the Wyoming Constitution, that the legislature provide by law the fees demanded of notary publics, and the fees shall be accepted as their full compensation. So it's actually constitutional that we're to charge fees of notaries, which I thought was interesting, in Article 14, Section 2.
Chairman Greer, did you have a follow-up question?
Madam Chairman, I was just getting the quote on that. So, okay, that makes a little more sense, I guess.
Thank you both. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So my question would be about the fee as well. I mean, a lot of these corporations bills kind of increase fees or fees in them, and I just want to be careful on our fee raising power. I mean, how are we determining that the marginal cost of each notary is $60 as opposed to $30 currently?
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This actually came from the notaries themselves. When you figure out, and committee as well, when you figure out the cost, so currently it's a 4-year term. So, and plus they have their bond, and then they have the fee. So you take that and you spread that out. And then what we did is through testimony and such, there's never been a bond actually utilized and called in. And so through a lot of testimony, we got rid of the bond. A lot of states don't even have a bond. So there was a lot of debate on increasing the bond. And so finally, ultimately, we just got rid of the bond completely. So that's no longer a fee. So that was a $50 fee that was required. And then you increase the time. So rather than every 4 years, it's every 6 years. So we're actually decreasing the fee for a notary versus increasing the fee. I don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you. Representative Worf.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The question I had is kind of similar to that. I was just, as we start to see reciprocal agreements and stuff working between states, I was just wondering how that fee, and you did a great job explaining that, but how does that fee compare outside the state? Are we going to run into problems where it could be possible that it's cheaper to do it elsewhere, and we're actually going to have less notaries because you can get it done in another state cheaper? Thank you.
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Actually, we're right on par with other states. So we're not above. We're right in line with other states.
Thank you. Representative Larson Lloyd, your hand was up. Did you reconsidered? Did you get scared? Okay.
Terrified was the word.
I know. Sorry. Further questions, committee? Well done, Representative Duncan. Representative Yin.
Representative, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Sorry to put on a little bit more time. So my question is specifically about the travel fee and what the discussion was like. I was looking at the original statute. The travel requirements are a little bit different. I know there are some places in Wyoming that have jet setters, and so maybe they would want a notary immediately to them in whatever remote place. What was the discussion about? Because the technology fee is just an agreement between the two parties on what the fee would be, but the travel fee is a little different. So I was wondering what the discussion during the interim was like around the travel fee. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Good question. Thank you, Representative Yin. Representative Duncan, do you have an answer?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It's all negotiable. In full disclosure, I actually have a notary stamp and I don't charge. So I don't charge at all for anybody to ask me to use my to notarize something. I actually have community people who come in. I actually have people who call me to go out to different potential people that are refinancing a home loan, and they ask me to what they call a mobile notary, which is just go to their property and notarize their refinancing documents. I don't charge to actually physically go and do that. So it's just up to the individual notary. But what this does is this allows the notary to do that. So it just depends on where you're at, what your market is, and who you are. So and also this notary could be someone with a car dealership. Maybe they are driving to drop off a new vehicle. It's just completely depends. So it's just a flexibility for basically on the market.
Thank you. Representative Ottman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple questions. It looks like a really good bill, and it looks like there's been just really a lot of thought and everything put into it. But being new to this concept and how it works in 74 pages to peruse, I was just wanting a little bit of clarification from the good representative if she would be so patient. If you could just kind of in a nutshell tell me who then can apply for this, just anyone. What is the accountability factor? I mean, say, what is the accountability factor of someone that is possibly not doing proper? And the types of testimony that there was, could you tell me, I mean, like business people, movie stars, whoever it was. I was just wanting a little background and just in a brief thing. Thank you.
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Great questions. First of all, it was attorneys, businesses, realtors, a lot of different entities that actually use notarization, a lot of notarization, title offices. They were all in on this. They actually tested some of the technology and they gave their input. The other part is anybody can be a notary. You just have to take the test, and they have a booklet for you to learn what the rules are, and then you take the test and the exam, and if you pass, then you go and you get your stamp and you start notarizing. As far as the accountability, that was your other question. The accountability is basically that's part of why this is necessary, because the Secretary of State did not have authority to go back and hold people accountable for fraud or for nefarious acts. And so now the Secretary of State has that authority to go back and have a little bit of teeth to be able to go back and to not renew or to remove people who are not behaving correctly. I hope that answered your questions.
Thank you. Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. One question, it was mentioned earlier that 3 of our bordering states allow for our notary. Just curious if there's any existing barriers as to why there aren't more.
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. No, actually, there's not. It's mainly people like myself who live on the border, and I'm licensed to sell real estate in both states. People up in Teton County, they're licensed in both states, or people who are in the Idaho that border our state and work across the borders. That's just and same with Montana. It's just a convenience. It's one of those market things, but it doesn't prevent other states, no.
Thank you. Representative Williams, did you have a further question?
Madam Chairwoman, no.
Okay,
in support of the bill.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that we're moving into the 21st century in this realm, and I think all of us have had to abort life at some point in time to go to do a notary. But I did have a question. Was there any negative feelings about this brought to the committee? Anyone speak out against it in a negative fashion? And if so, what was their reasons for it? I just want to make sure there isn't something that we're not seeing. So,
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Actually, in the very beginnings of this bill, there was a little bit of pushback by some of the attorneys that tested it, and it was the particular software of a particular company. And then what they did is they expanded, Secretary of State expanded it and said, you can utilize whatever software, you're not pigeonholed to a particular software. So originally when we were in lockdown with COVID, it was only allowed a particular software and that they were using. And so by the time the bill came around, they didn't identify a particular software. And so that alleviated everybody's issues, because the software was expensive, it was cumbersome, and people like me wouldn't be participating and be using that particular software, because me and one of the other representatives that spoke earlier, we have our own software platforms that we use on a daily basis that has electronic signatures and different things like that. So it wouldn't have been conducive for us to use or cost prohibitive. So what the Secretary of State did is they brought this bill to us where it is wide open to, they just put in parameters that you have to physically be able to see the other person, verify who they are and such. So it's turned out to be a great option to where we were all able to use whatever software we have. We're not locked into a particular program.
Representative Winter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. My question is, have all these title associations, are they all on board with this action or this particular bill? Have they all been contacted and are they in agreement with it?
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, everybody is all in support.
Representative Winter, did you have a follow-up?
No, I'm good, I guess. My wife is a title agent and she has some concerns about it and I have to contact her, I guess, and get some more information before we, during the next reading, I guess. Thank you.
Got an answer to your number one constituent there. Representative Duncan, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. To the good representative, probably because her concern was probably previous during the COVID lockdown, like I mentioned previously, the format and the software that they had to use was cumbersome. It was expensive and it was difficult to use. And it was very expensive. And they've done away with that particular requirement. So it also depends on the particular title company and what their requirements are.
Very good. Further questions, committee?
Question.
Thank you. Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Zwanitzer's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that Senate File 29 do pass. Please raise your hands to the screen. Opposed, same sign. Senate File 29 has passed the committee of the whole. Our next bill for consideration is Senate File 32. The reading clerk will read the bill.
Senate File 32, sponsored by Appropriations, Water Permit Notice Requirements, an act relating to water. This bill was referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Kinner, Larson-Lloyd, Nicholas, Schwartz, Simpson, Stith, Walters. Signed, Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Nicholas?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move when the committee of the whole rise and report. It does so with a recommendation that Senate File 32 do pass. And I'll turn the explanation over and as well as the amendments to the good representative from the southeast corner of the state. And I think we're going to, there might be one or two others who also assist, but thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And just speak up, whoever you are from the south. Pardon me?
Madam Chairman, that would be me.
Representative Simpson, good to see you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, a large part of what we do in this business of legislating is to find statutes that are out of date, antiquated, and need to be updated. And then we prepare bills to try to modernize those. This session, we're also working on state statutes to coincide with budget cuts. During the budget cutting process, the agencies were requested to help us as legislators find statute language that was costing them a lot of money that perhaps was superfluous and could be updated to save money for all the parties involved. And so this piece of legislation is both of those. So I'd like to draw your attention to page 1. Anytime a citizen wants to obtain a water right or construct a canal or a structure, anything like that associated with water, she's first required to fill out an application. And so this section 501 44-4-501 talks about that application process. Page 2 is our first part of the adjustment associated with this bill. Line 7, it instructs the state engineer's office to, on their application forms, now to include a line for people to fill in their email address. Down on line 14, then it suggests that in the application, people should be able to opt in or out of receiving correspondence via email. Makes a lot of sense, much more efficient, and much less costly to communicate with applicants in electronic means. On page 3, section 502 talks about when someone submits an application for a water right or to do anything at all, quite often the applications are defective. And so this section talks about what to do. When submitting an application, it's not unusual not to include all the information. This state engineer's office is very particular and very, very detailed. And so it quite often happens that we don't get all the information in the applications. Down on line 6, line 7, if the application is submitted in hard copy, the defective application shall be returned. You notice we've stricken the certified mail clause. We're trying to get away from that because it's expensive, especially in this situation. These applications aren't just a couple pages of paper. They often include significant maps and additional supporting data that is really in an entire application packet. So we're going to drop down into just using general delivery. At this point in time, they are communicating regularly by phone between the state engineer's office and the applicant. Moving on to page 5. So once you've received your permit and you're authorized to construct, you have 5 years to construct the improvements, whether it be to drill a well or to construct a new head gate or a new canal or any type of improvement. You have 5 years. Section 506 talks about what happens when you fail to complete the improvements. You make the application's granted, but nothing happens out on the ground. So I direct your attention to page 6. So in this application, 3 months before the application expires, the state engineer's office is directed to communicate with the applicant to put them on notice that their permit's going to expire and be eliminated. So if the applicant is default by not constructing the improvements, again, we're eliminating the registered mail. They've had 5 years to do the work. If they didn't do 5 years, they probably are not going to do the work. And so we're inserting either post office, regular mail, or hopefully we're going to get everyone on the email process and we can communicate with them electronically. So as we move down through, then at the bottom of page 6, it basically says if there's no communication at all, in other words, the people have abandoned their email, they've abandoned their mail, then what we're asking the state engineer to do on top of page 7 is to post it on his website and post it also 3 times in the newspaper of general circulation. So that is the corrections up on a water right application work. Madam Chairwoman, there is an amendment. I move standing committee amendment number 1 to Senate File 32. Would like to explain that. Give you just a second to pull up that amendment. It's back on page 6 and 7 again, the very last pages we just referred to on the engrossed copy. Madam Chairwoman, the first recommendation coming out of the Appropriations Committee is that on page 6, line 22, we found that we had 2 redundant sentences. So we're eliminating one of those as a housekeeping item on page 20, or line 22 and half of 23. On also on line 23, there was a discussion of is posting it on the website and publish it in the newspaper adequate. And so we felt like we need to just do one more item there to make sure the applicant was notified. And so we've asked that a certified mail, remember this is the middle one, registered mail is the most expensive, certified mail is the second, and regular first class mail is the third. We threw in a provision to address the certified mail and just do one last chance of trying to put that person on notice that their permit's going to lapse. Madam Chairwoman, that's in the explanation. I turn the floor back to you for discussion.
Thank you, Representative Simpson. And just to verify, Chairman Nicholas, we did move that amendment. You did, rather. Very good. Questions on the amendment committee?
Question.
Question having been called, all those in favor of standing committee? Oh, Representative Schwartz, did you have a question? No, you were voting. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand to the screen. Opposed, same sign. The amendment has passed. We're back on the bill. Questions on the bill? Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just a quick question to the committee in general. It was stated at the beginning of this that this was asked by, kind of as a favor for the legislative body to please come and have the executive branch help us out and find some areas. So am I correct in understanding that the language that we have here actually came as a suggestion from the state engineer's office as their way to have them assist? And I just want to make sure that, again, we're going down the same rabbit hole that I promised not to bring up again, but can I just get that question answered for me? I'd appreciate it.
Representative Simpson.
Madam Chairwoman, yes, these are suggestions from the state engineer's office. By tweaking a few of these things, they estimate that they'll save $5,000 per year.
Thank you. Further questions? Questions? Sensing your, thank you. Question having been called, all those in favor of Senate File 32, please raise your hand to the screen. Opposed, same sign. Senate File 32 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is Senate File 54. The reading clerk will read the bill.
Senate File 54, sponsored by Labor, Health, and Social Services. State health-wide information exchange codification. An act relating to the administration of government. This bill was referred to committee number 2. I'm sorry. This bill was referred to committee number 10, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Representative Clifford, Connolly, Flitner, Hallinan, Ottman, Martinez, Worf, Wilson, no, Stivar. Signed Representative Wilson, Chairman. It was further re-referred to committee number 2, Appropriations, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Representatives Kinner, Larson Lloyd, Nicholas, Schwartz, Simpson, Stiff, Walters. Signed Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Nicholas? No, Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that Senate File 54 do pass. There are no amendments, and I will explain the bill myself. So, colleagues, this is a bill that is sort of a cleanup from the 2016 budget session. Back in 2016, there was a budget footnote authorizing the Department of Health to spend up to $1 million in reversions, which are monies that were not needed that year, to match $9 million in federal funds to set up a software platform to enable the providers, healthcare providers in the state to access their patients' medical records, even if they were at a different facility. In other words, supposing that the patient had been seen at a clinic and 2 days later they show up at the hospital, to be able to access that by computer. The reason that it was set up in the Department of Health at that time was because the Department of Health is the agency that does Medicaid patients, Medicaid record type things. And so they had a fair amount of experience with that and with telehealth. So, and I'll explain this a little bit more, but the reason why they are now looking for this to be put in statute is just because the whole platform and all has been really hanging around as a result of that budget footnote ever since. And what they want to do now with the funding having been spent and the program has been working for several years is to set up a special revenue account so that the providers, this would be hospitals, clinics, that sort of thing, can basically pay an annual subscription and use that for the funding rather than using general fund. So that is the entire purpose of the bill, is to authorize the special revenue account and the fees. So just then backing up to explain a little bit more on what this is. Those of us who have lived through healthcare for some decades, you can remember that if you say had some body part x-rayed and then you wanted a different physician to look at it, you had to go maybe to the hospital, sign a consent form, carry it in these giant envelopes to the new doctor and have them look at it. All these things might take kind of a lengthy amount of time. Now, of course, that we have electronic records, which, just as a side note, I can say that as a translator, you sure can make a lot more sense out of typed up records than little hen scratchy things, which you might have seen before. So because different providers have different software platforms, they don't always exchange. This is basically a hub that enables the exchange of that. So to point out, to have the records put accessible through this is entirely voluntary. It's all HIPAA compliant. There is only specific information that can be accessed through this. It's the information that would be in what they call a continuity of care document. So that would be things like prescriptions, lab results, radiology reports, allergies, and that kind of thing. It's not long garrulous things, and also they do not allow mental health or substance abuse or genetic information. All the states have these. Some states have more than one of these networks, so which is helpful here in Wyoming because we have so many patients who are referred out, say, to Colorado, Utah, South Dakota, and so on. So those can be accessed as well. Just to clarify, and I'll be able to take questions that people might specifically have. It is prohibited to use the information for things like marketing or research or fundraising. So as a physician or a nurse practitioner, you can only go into this system and look at information for your particular patient. You have to have a provider-patient relationship with the person. Right now, they've got about 1,500 providers that are doing this. They anticipate maybe getting up to 3,000. Hospitals, clinics across the state are signed up for this. And just to then look at the fiscal note, if you can access that through your website, the cost or the estimated revenue increase would be maybe $200,000-$300,000 a year. They estimate that some part of that would be covered by Medicaid. Then they anticipate there are some contracts that they have for similar systems, for example, a Medicaid only system that would end this year, and so they will have savings from not spending that, and the rest will be made up in the fees, the subscription fees. And for your information, the fees would average probably about $10,000 a year, say for a large hospital. A small clinic might pay less than $100 a year. And as I say, this is sort of a subscription fee. It's not based on, okay, how many clients am I inquiring about? You just just like you do with other software things that you might have a subscription to, you just pay that. They do have an executive board, sort of an advisory board that is made up of providers, hospital, medical society folks, the Primary Care Association. And so that, Madam Chairman, is pretty much the summary of the what we're doing here, and I would be glad to take questions.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairman Wilson. So, the theory on this, I think, is to lower costs through having a market, so that you have that, which often we lack in medical settings. We lack that price information. So, I mean, I know this is something you've been passionate about, and I think markets for healthcare is something I brought piece of legislation on, and I think is in concept something that can lower costs, which is a problem here in Wyoming. But my one question on this exchange is, I mean, what has been the oversight from the Labor Committee in saying that, yes, this is in fact lowering costs? And obviously correlation doesn't equal causation, but from everything I've seen, costs continue to rise. So is it the theory of the committee, or if you look at it, that costs would be higher without this, or is it not having any effect? Or, because there is a fee in this bill. So if it's not having an effect, I just wonder somewhat why we're doing it. So anyway, I just pose those questions. The concept I agree with, but I'm just wondering what the oversight has been from the committee and what the testimony has been about the effectiveness of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So just to be clear, because we have done a number of things through Labor Committee the last few years with IT type things, this is not the multi-payer claims database. That is something entirely different. All this basically is a medical records system where doctors, and obviously there are other kinds of providers, but I'll just use that for shorthand. A doctor, say at a clinic, can look at the patient's record from another facility, or maybe they are referred to a neurologist in another place, and look at the medical records. So this is specific to medical records, not some sort of comparison of data about the care that people are receiving. There is a cost savings one can suppose from this, which is that, and many of you have maybe experienced this unfortunate thing, that you get some sort of test done in your hometown, and then the doctor decides they need to send you to a hospital in another place, and the other place says, oh, we need an EKG. And you say to them, well, I just had an EKG 6 hours ago in my hometown. And they say, well, we don't have it. And so you get another one done. Many people have suffered under this annoyance. So obviously to the patient, to not have things duplicated is going to be a savings. That's not something that there has been an analysis done of foregone duplication of tests. As far as the oversight from the Labor Committee, having come back in the 2 years that I've been back on the committee from appropriations, there's not been particular discussion of it. It's been basically a software development project in the agency, and was carried out there. So this is really the first time that we have revisited it in my time back on the committee.
Thank you. Follow up, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, I apologize that I didn't, I confused it with the multiplayer claims database, which I know you've done a lot of work on. I'm inclined then to not be as excited about this one. I just, if this didn't exist, would people just transfer their records and do what we used to do and just call our previous doctor and transfer the records and ask them to do that? I mean, why is this needed? Thank you.
Chairman Wilson.
Madam Chairman, thank you. So I guess we are accustomed in life nowadays to be able to have things discovered more promptly. Speaking as a person who has attempted in the past, and many of us have probably experienced that as you get older, maybe you have to go to more doctors or something like that. But the paper pushing and carrying of documents by paper from point A to point B, and it can take days, if not shorter. I mean, I know, I'll just say when my daughter moved back from Japan this spring, it took her about 3 months to get her daughter's vaccination records from the clinic in Japan, which was not very helpful. So obviously, if all the providers say, I don't want to pay $100 a year to access my patient's records, I'd rather wait a week until it shows up on paper, then it will go away. But I do think that as far as providing good care to patients, providers really would like to be able to know today when the person is in the ER with pneumonia, rather than let them sit around the hospital for a couple of days and we'll find out next week what their test results were last time. Or, as I say, if people don't have it right at their fingertips nowadays, the providers tend to say, well, we'll just order another one. We'll order another EKG in spite of the fact that you had one yesterday. That's not very helpful. It's annoying to the patient. And personally, I think that this is a good idea.
Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. For the chair, this is a question for, just to make sure I understand this. This is basically trying to make this self-sustaining, correct? Because currently it's being paid out of general funds, and what this bill is doing is making it self-sustaining so that the fees by the providers are the ones that are paying for this service themselves, which in essence, what I'm understanding from you saying is that me as a consumer are not going to get double charged for extra results, extra tests and things, because one wants me to do a test and then I go to the next office and I have to do the same test rather than just shifting the test back and forth. Is that what I'm understanding?
Chairman Wilson.
Madam Chairman, that's correct. Obviously, in this time of budget cutting, to spend the money, the general fund money that we give the department on the things that they have to do, and to enable the department to charge subscription fees to providers who want to participate, seems like a good choice.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Hallinan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I can remember a case where a patient went out of my practice. It wasn't a referral, but it was a patient went out of my practice and had a test that was done that did not come back to me. And it was a very important test. So this would be one way that I could get access to that test that was done. And I think this bill would actually help in providing that information. So that would have been a very significant test that I didn't get access to. And this would offer me the opportunity to get that access and be able to help that patient. So I think this has some positive benefits for practitioners and for patients. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Representative Stivar.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I voted no in committee because of privacy issues. And, if that doctor's having a bad day and he puts something in your record, it's going to follow you. It might be right, it might be wrong. It might be his opinion. But the privacy issues, also the opt-in. Everybody's automatically opt-in. You have to opt out. And we'll talk with some of my constituents. They didn't even know this was going on. So on and against.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So it is an opt-out for an opt-out feature. In other words, the provider will say, and of course, when you go to the doctor's office, now you've got the HIPAA form, you've got this other form, there's all sorts of stuff, and we have a tendency to kind of initial or say, do I really have to have yet another copy of the same piece of paper? The opt-down feature can either be done at your provider's office, or you can go online at the Department of Health. And once you opt out, you are opted out of all of the care. The reason for having it be opt out rather than opt in is just a lot of times you don't consider how useful this will be until, let's say, you're in a car wreck, at which point it will be a little difficult for you to opt in. Really, I think the opt-out feature is what most states have done, and it's far more functional. We've done that in a lot of our things, employee benefits and that kind of thing. As far as the privacy, pointing out that, the HIPAA standards, the requirements for the privacy of your healthcare, it can only be accessed by another provider who is providing care for you. You can't just go in and delve around among all fascinating people in the state of Wyoming and see who's got such and such a test. The person has got to know you, all your various information, and inquire. So, if you start off at your family practitioner and the family practitioner refers you to a neurologist, to say that your neurologist is interfering with your privacy, you're trying to get neurology care from them, and you will hopefully have taken your records there. So, the rest of the committee didn't see that as a problem, to be honest.
Thank you. Representative Burt.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got a question for the presenter. If you can clarify some language for me. I'm on page 2, line 4 through 7. It says that the Department of Health is authorized to administer and maintain the exchange to facilitate the secure and voluntary share of electronic health information between healthcare providers. Is that with or without the knowledge or consent of the patient? Is the patient asked before that information is shared, or does this give the Department of Health the full authority to basically transmit and share whatever patient information the department feels it needs to share amongst the different providers?
Thank you.
Chairman, clarify that for me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, thank you. So just to be clear, the Department of Health is not accessing the patient's information. The Department of Health has basically done this IT development of the platform. The doctors or the nurses or the pharmacists are the ones who see the actual information. The requirement is for any provider who is using this platform to have made that information known to the patient and offered the patient an opportunity to opt out. Now, I will admit that all of us do not always discern that carefully what paperwork we're looking at when we go to the doctor's office, because usually we've showed up with a terrible cough and a temperature and we're not thinking about the papers. That may be so, but the requirement is for the provider to let the patient know, and the patient can opt out at any time. I guess that's the answer.
Thank you. Representative Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I've been on labor health the last 4 years, and we have discussed this numerous times and gotten updates. And I guess I'm one, quite honestly, when I go to different doctors, I sign everything because I'm not, I guess I'm not worried about the conspiracy theory of government implanting a chip into my neck and tracking my every move. So I got the vaccine, and so far I don't think anybody's tracking me. So, but I think that this is a good thing. The experts from the department, who I've got great respect for, their analysts that are working on this, putting these things together. I just think this is a good move. And in the long run, I think our constituents will be appreciative. And so I ask for your favorable vote.
Thank you. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, did you have a response or a question?
Madam Chairwoman, yeah, I would just ask the good representative and all representatives just to kind of watch our debate, and you know, let's keep the conspiracy theories to a minimum on saying that word, even, you know. So it's we don't want to apply our thoughts to what other people have said, and you know, it's anyway. I just ask you to keep the debate cleaner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Blackburn, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to the Chairman of Labor, I wonder if this is like My Connection in Colorado through UC Health. And if it's not, if you know the difference or if you even know about that program.
Thank you. Just a reminder not to use proper names. Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I don't know the specifics of the program that the person was asking about. Again, this is sort of like a translation program, in a sense, that the doctor can upload. Remember, not everything in the whole office, but things that are in this specific document. So lab reports, prescriptions, and that kind of thing. And then another provider at a different location can call up that person's lab results or whatever it is and look at it. I mean, I myself have seen my nurse practitioner use this. If I had you know, a mammogram at the radiology center, and then 2 months later, my provider can look in my medical record, even though it was at a different place, and call it up and say, here's your results. Here's what's happened. This is what that is. Everything's great. It's really just a software platform that enables providers in different places to access the specific information that is in the document that goes into the system.
Thank you. Representative Blackburn, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, ma'am, I did. So is this just in Wyoming so that my doctors or someone's doctors south of Wyoming can't or can access that information as well?
Chairman Wilson.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Now, this program, which they call Wi-Fi for short, is connected to the Colorado exchanges, to the Utah exchanges, to the South Dakota exchange just for admission and discharge and transfer information. And they are working with Montana and Idaho to get those linked, which is certainly helpful for those of us in Wyoming, considering how many people actually get referred to providers in other states.
And Chairman Wilson, we also have a number of providers within the state itself who are also connected, right?
Madam Chairman, certainly that's the majority, obviously. We're not connected to the specific providers in the other states except through their exchanges. It is, you know, the description of the technology. I wish I had a whiteboard here and I could draw up a picture. But as I say, there are about 1,500 providers in the state of Wyoming who are already participating in this and have been for several years, and they continue to enroll new providers.
Thank you, ma'am. Representative Nyman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just had one clarification. I thought I heard you say, Representative Wilson, that they're provided the opportunity to opt out for this if folks do it. Is that true? That is in the paperwork at the hospital or through this program? Or at what point do suppose somebody's told, you know, if you don't want this, we just want to let you know you don't have to take this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder, make sure we don't use proper names. Thank you, Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will just say it's even hard for me as a chairman to remember that I'm not chairing my own committee here. You know, if we were all standing on the floor, it would be a lot easier to remember exactly where we are. But so to that inquiry, yes, the patient has the opportunity to opt out. So the first time you see a provider who is participating in this, that provider will say, do you want to opt out in some form or other? And if you say, I don't want my information in that, then you are opted out from every kind of provider everywhere. You don't have to do it every new place again. And if somehow you thought, I don't remember any paper from my provider, you just go to the Department of Health's website and you can opt out there, and it will opt you out really within a day, I think they said. If you change your mind in the next year and think, gee, too bad the ER didn't have my x-ray when I showed up with a headache, and you decide you want to opt back in, you can just opt back in and you're opted in again.
Thank you. Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To the good presenter, I'm just curious, I had a personal thing where two doctors used this, and in more than one occasion, the information that was sent from one to another was bad. In fact, it was could have been life-threatening. And that information was there any discussion about the complications that you might have from that information that now is going to go out to a number of doctors?
Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We did have some discussion on that. And of course, the root document of all of this is the original record at your provider's office. So, obviously, if there's an error in a medical record, that should be corrected at the originating place. And then that would flow through the system. I mean, it's not like blockchain where it stays there forever. Now, granted, if there's wrong information in your record and another provider sees that and relies upon it, that is problematic. And if you had, if they didn't have the information at all, in that case, it might be better to not have that. But I would, errors in medical records do happen, unfortunately. I would suggest that it's probably the very small minority of occasions. And I think the benefit to patients of having your provider access the records and the information and not duplicate probably numerically exceeds the errors. Certainly you're as a patient, we should always try to make sure that what's in our records is accurate.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Further questions, or are you ready for the question? Oh, Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Honestly, where the world we live in right now, there is a lot of news coming out that there are breaches in technology and leaks and issues, and I don't know, I just think that putting this out there is an opportunity. It's a treasure trove for the wrong individuals to get a hold of mass amounts of information that could be detrimental. So I've had a lot of people reach out towards me from my home district saying, we don't want this to go forward. We don't want this to be a part of what is moving forward. So like I said, I like the idea. I think it's a great idea. I struggle with the safety of it, because we live in a world where as much as I wish it weren't true, the computers aren't terribly safe. So anyway, it's just another food for thought. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
There is an opt-out provision, Representative Haroldson. Representative Ottman, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and presenter. Yesterday, I was in those committee meetings and was able to hear all the great testimony about how they're trying to work that and the good things that are available through that, from hearing about being able to get your records when you may not remember the previous doctor's address or name or contact information, or if, as the presenter said, you may have been in an accident, you really can't speak. But I'm wondering if we could just clarify a little bit, when the data comes in, is that going to an exchange which is actually the Department of Health? And how many exchanges are there? Would it just be one exchange for each state that's subscribed? And also, how does that data have to go? Do the participating people, whether it be physicians, hospitals, or whatever, do they have to have then that data recorder, or do they have to have new software? And I just thought maybe that would, because I know they said with software they could say this data is desired, this data will be input, this data will not be input. So there was some clarification on how they were working with that. And I was just wondering if you would share that with us.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson.
Well, I am afraid I am not an IT ninja, so I'm a little over my head here. I personally suspect that what I have seen my providers do, just like we do with our legislative computer, you know, you call up I'm looking at my computer, as we all are, call up your email program, you have to type in your password, and then you can get an email that someone else sent you. I couldn't possibly tell you how the programming on that works. I'm a tool using monkey, and I use my computer, and I don't know how they write all those software. We certainly have a representative from Teton County that probably could tell us the technical insides on these things. But it is just an exchange where, I mean, and linking that with the prior question about the security of these things, you know, certainly cybersecurity. I had a working group for several years working on cybersecurity. I mean, cybersecurity is a big concern of mine. And you all know that there have been hospitals in this state who have had ransomware attacks to their IT systems. I mean, that's a national problem. So certainly the ability of hostile actors to do a ransomware attack on your provider or your hospital to find out what your EKG result was, I mean, that's not great. Frankly, I'm a lot more worried about people that file their taxes online. You know, everybody that does that, I think personally ought to be a lot more worried than what bad actors are going to do with your EKG result. But granted, cybersecurity is a big problem everywhere. This system is as secure as systems can be. And keep in mind that every provider is already using electronic health record. So the thought that your record is somewhere on paper in the basement of your provider and no one looks at it except when they go down to the basement to look at it, I'm sorry, that has been gone since the 90s probably. And it's not that way anymore.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Majority Floor Leader, did you have a comment?
Madam Chairwoman, I just have a question, and you can put me in the lineup wherever you would like.
Okay, thank you, sir. Representative Knapp. Representative Knapp, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the exchange is a good idea. My concern also is in the privacy. Was there any discussion in committee about that level of security where even simply having the patients have their own ID code that they could give to the doctor for access so that they own the record and that the exchange was simply the administrator for maintaining? Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So a couple of things here. The patient is always the owner of their own record. That's one thing. It is your record. The other thing to keep in mind is that this exchange has been in existence for several years. Providers are using it. There's some 1,500 providers who are using it now. The specifics of this bill is to authorize the subscription fee and the special revenue account so that it can be paid for by the subscription fees. So that's what we're specifically doing in the bill. There are massive federal requirements for security of healthcare records. I mean, that's the whole HIPAA law that you've probably heard a trillion of times and makes you sign a lot of things. It's as secure as IT people know how to make things be secure. That's really, I can't, I'm not an IT specialist to let you know what the cybersecurity protections are, but keeping in mind that the providers have their own records already in electronic version. If the hospital owns many practitioners, which is certainly the case across the state, most of our big hospitals now actually own the practices, and those internal people are already communicating electronic records to each other. This simply enables people who have the specific patient information and it's their patient to access them as well.
Thank you. Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To the good presenter, I wanted to go drive back to a little bit to this. What is the update, or how does that update work? I understand that that is our information, but I'll give you for instance, when I went to see a physician, they had wrong information in the data. So they had it, or the data was incorrect in my file. And so I said, no, that's not correct. The next year, when I went back again, sure enough, they had solved that, but had created another issue. And had I been in a neighboring state or something, could have easily been prescribed medications that I was completely allergic to. So their correction then also would have created a problem. So you can see why I have a little bit of trouble with this idea. So with this being our information, do we have to go to our physician and say, hey, I want to see what you got in my file. I want to see what you're putting out here. How often is this updated? If I were to find it, which in this case, I only found it by going to see a physician. If I had found it, will that update immediately? Will it be 6 months from now, a year from now? If I could have a little bit more clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wilson. I guess I never know what my physician is writing in my file for sure. Do you have an answer?
Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you. So I'll just say, as a former healthcare administrator, it is on all of us to make sure our information is accurate. I mean, that we should own our information. We do own it, but I mean, we should take ownership as well, certainly. So good on you, previous person discussing this to follow up. As far as the updating on this, this is not something where they send in information and it's sitting in some separate location with little people who send things out. This is all real-time connections, as real as, and again, I'm not the IT person writing the software, but I would suspect that it's as real-time as anything that we look at here. For example, we're looking at the amendment page, and when new amendments come, you might have to hit refresh before the new amendment is loaded. But whatever is in your provider's record should be what is accessible. Now, keeping in mind that I started working in healthcare back in the old paper days, medical records keep on going. So if I write something, and I'm using word writing because of thinking of the old paper charts that I had to put so many together. If I write down December 1998, patient is 4'2", but they meant to say 6'2", and then a year later they write, oh, patient is 6'2", that 4'2" is still there from 1994 because the records just keep adding on and on and on. I mean, that's how they work. Hopefully the current stuff is what's accurate. So I just want to say that we should always all make sure that our providers have accurate information, whether it's in our own record or something that another provider can access. As patients, we need to not just assume that whatever you show up and the doctor pats you on the head and you go on your way. We're not going to a veterinarian, okay? I mean, we can speak, we can be involved. I'm just doing a little rant here on this. It's not really pertinent to the bill, but I encourage all of you to pay attention to what's going on with your provider. Madam
Thank you,
Chairman,
Chairman
sorry, I
Wilson.
got a little sideways there.
That's all right. Thank you. And Representative Romero Martinez, did you have a question for Chairman Wilson regarding the bill?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make some comments on the bill. I was on that committee, and to resolve the issue of Chairman Wilson saying she wished she had a whiteboard to write everything. Fortunately, during the meeting, my whiteboard was right here, and you can see right here at the very top it says the purpose of it was medical treatment. So I wanted to give a couple of stories.
What? I didn't hear who said point of order. Excuse me, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We're not supposed to have props and such, and he's using it as a prop.
Thank you, Representative Duncan and Representative Romero Martinez. I was going to say that, but anyway, please proceed.
Thank you for the correction. I'll just use my crystal clear words. The purpose of this bill is for medical treatment. So I'm going to give a couple of examples. There's two people in my family that I want to mention, and I guess I'm going to mention a third, myself. One member was diagnosed 20 years ago. X was the diagnosis, so to protect their information. The wrong organ was taken out because of a bad record that was chicken scratched the old-fashioned way that people think is so safe themselves. It's not. Taking that organ out of my family member's body led to an early death. So there could be hypotheticals, and then there's this example, which is reality. And I'll share that story with anybody, anytime, any day. Also recently, I'll narrow it down to two due to lack of time, actually. I ordered medical records for myself. It took forever to get them, 3 months. By the time I got those records and shared them with the State Department, they were illegible. So no service could be rendered because of these chicken scratches. I know that Chairman Wilson's not an IT specialist, and I'm not a technician, but I am an IT specialist and working for the national defense organizations that protect our sky and space. What I got from the committee was, and I don't mean to be redundant, but this is already in existence. 1,500 medical providers are already using it. They're not sharing anything related to mental health, substance abuse related issues, or genetic testing data. And regarding medical records belonging to the patient, I want to thank the chairwoman of the committee for encouraging us to take ownership of our own medical records. In the last 10 years, I've been working directly in hospice with my family, and every day that I showed up, it was a laptop, and it was obtaining the current status of my family members, because we should be doing that. It would be changed real time. If there was bad information here in the local hospital, that information was usually changed right, as long as you make sure that it's changed. I stand on and for the bill, and everybody that testified from the medical community supported it. And it's the same concept that the Defense of Department of the United States has been working to implement for the past 20 years, and it's to safeguard the patient. And I apologize for using a prop. I just wanted to drive home that the purpose of this is for medical treatment. And thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Burt, did you have a question?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I'd like to first acknowledge the passion that the bill presenter has shown. I can appreciate that. I have admiration for the belief in the bill itself, and thank you for bringing that to the floor. I do just have one final question, and it's on the funding mechanism of it through the fiscal notes. And I'll give you a second there to kind of look over this. The understanding I have is that estimated cost to this will be about $500,000 with the offset cost of 100,000 from the Medicaid side of it, and with the remaining 400,000, half of that, which would be the 200,000, would be estimated funded from the volunteer participation fees, if I'm reading the fiscal note correctly. Where would so with the math, and pardon me for the branch of military, we're not particularly known well for counting that, so bear with me on that. Sorry, sir. But with that, on that knowledge, is there still a $200 or $200,000 shortfall in order to fund this? If there is, where would those funds come from? Thank you.
Chairman Wilson, bring us home.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I will just say, you get the math that you need, and if you have a box of 20 rounds and a lot of it is gone and you have 4 rounds left, then that tells you all you need to know. And there you go. So your math was perfectly adequate. And in fact, I made that same question. So congratulations to a freshman for reading a fiscal note, which sometimes can be challenging. But yes, I had the very same question, and the answer from the department was that they do have some current contracts for standalone systems. For example, they have an information system that is only for Medicaid and that sort of thing. That contract ends this August. And so they anticipate, this was their answer to that very same question, they anticipate making up the difference by no longer needing the contracts for the standalone IT services, and they confirmed that there would be no additional appropriation request.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Further questions? Seeing none, are you ready for the question?
Question.
Question having been called, all those in favor of Chairman Wilson's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that Senate File 54 do pass, please raise your hands to the screen. Opposed, same sign. Senate File 54 has passed the Committee of the Whole. And I believe Majority Floor Leader Summers, are you available?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, thank you. I appreciate it. And so members of the 66, what we're going to do now is we're going to rise and report on the Committee of the Whole. That'll allow us to bring in committee reports. We'll be able to get a few more Senate files online for Committee of the Whole in the afternoon, and then we're going to have lunch. So, Madam Chairwoman, I would move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand to the screen.
I believe there's Madam Chairwoman, I believe there's a script that you've kind of got to go through there. So you'll have to find your script.
It says you have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand to the screen. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman Flintner. Reading clerk will read the Committee of the Whole report.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole, having had under consideration bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. Senate File 14 do pass. Senate File 29 do pass. Senate File 32 do pass amended, and Senate File 54 do pass.
Thank you, Chief Clerk, and thank you, Chairman Flintner. Chairman Flintner will be taking over again after lunch and continuing with our good work and the good work of the body. Chief Clerk, committee reports.
Sorry, sir. Your committee number 3, revenue, to whom was referred Senate File 60 engrossed, monthly ad valorem tax revisions 2. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Hallinan, Harshman, Henderson, Roscoe, Sweeney, Yin. Noes, Baker, Gray, Jennings. Signed, Representative Harshman, Chairman. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources, to whom was referred Senate File 37, Omnibus Water Bill Planning, respectfully report same back to the House with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Eklund, Fortner, Heiner, Larson Dan, Western, Wharf, Winter. Signed, Representative Eklund, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Clerk.
One
Committee
more.
Chair. Oh,
One more.
sorry,
Sorry,
my apologies.
Mr. Speaker, your committee number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Land and Water Resources, to whom was referred House Bill 52, Wyoming School Protein Enhancement Project, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Blackburn, Clausen, Eklund, Fortner, Heiner, Larson Dan, Western, Wharf, Winter. Signed, Representative Eklund, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Again, good work coming from our committees. I do think we have a couple of re-referrals. Chairman Eklund.
Mr. Speaker, your number 5 committee, Agriculture, worked 2 bills this morning. We'd like to refer them to appropriations. They're Senate File 37, Omnibus Water Bill Planning, and House Bill 52, Wyoming School Protein Enhancement Project.
Thank you, Chairman. Without objection, Senate File 37 and House Bill 52 are referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. All right, any other business before us, Chief Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, members, and I thank Representative Washut for pointing out this morning that I forgot to do a shout out to a group of citizens who do good things and do good work in the state of Wyoming. So today I'm going to show appreciation and on behalf of the Wyoming House of Representatives and myself, on behalf of the Wyoming House of Representatives, to those folks who are in our tourism industry, those folks that welcome people to our state from across the country and across the world, who feed them and tour them and put them up at night, whether at a bed and breakfast or a hotel, who clean the rooms, who do all the things that welcome people to our state so they can enjoy and appreciate the natural beauty we have, and of course the goodwill of our citizens. So a thank you to all those folks who do the work, who promote the work of our state in that industry of tourism. We thank you and we appreciate you. I see
Mr. Speaker.
I see Chairman Flitner.
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure if I needed to move the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report or not.
Did I get ahead of myself?
Yes,
if I did, sir. Go ahead and move the adoption. My apologies.
So moved.
So you've heard the motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole report. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. And I can tell you folks, it's right here in my script. So my apologies again. I see chairmen that want to visit. So Representative Burkhardt, I think, had his hand up, and then we'll go with Chairman Nicholas. And then Chairman Olson. Chairman Burkhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, will meet 15 minutes after recess to consider House Bill 20, House Bill 21, House Bill 23, and if there is adequate time, House Bill 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 1, Judiciary, will meet immediately upon adjournment to consider Senate File 21, Judicial Review of Agency Actions, Permissible Venues, and Senate File 26, Animal Abuse Statutes, Reorganization and Update. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Nicholas, did you have an announcement?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Your House Appropriations will meet at 1:30 to consider re-referrals for Senate File 37 and House Bill 52.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Flitner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And your committee number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources, is scheduled to meet. We'll meet about 10 minutes upon adjournment. We will discuss Senate File 56. And Mr. Speaker, if I might ask you a question on that.
Please proceed.
I'm just wondering where, we'll just have a discussion on that, but I don't think we'll be taking up that, that committee bill today, correct?
Madam Chairman, so I know you scheduled your meeting for that bill today. It was not read in and referred to your committee. So it is not actually available to work, but you can certainly review if you wanted to with your committee time, review it. And I will visit with you about a path forward with that. Thank you, Chairman Flitner.
Thank you very much.
Any other business for the good of the order? Business for the good of the order. Well, it's a beautiful day in Cheyenne, and I certainly hope it's a beautiful day where you are. So get out and see some of those tourist sites, as if you don't have committee meetings over lunch, if you have get some fresh air, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Thank you. You've heard the motion to stand in recess until 2 p.m. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, do the same. House, we are in recess until 2 p.m. Thank you very much.